me to record. We are now recording. Go ahead, Vuyo.
Thanks, Prof, and good evening to you, the students, and also the fellow panelists who are part of the session. And I'm from Tanzania originally, where I come from. It's a township in the Eastern Cape, the town called East London. That's where I grew up and everything. But of course, I would have come to from 2011 until 16. I did my undergrad there in politics and also in industrial and economic sociology. But currently of Metalworkers of South Africa, head of the education department nationally for the union. I'm not sure, Prof, if you want me, there's more to elaborate, or maybe just introductions at the stage.
Yes, that's enough for now. I'm just worried that we can't hear you. We couldn't hear you so clearly. It says our network is poor, which is quite embarrassing. Vuyo, can I just ask you to just say what you had just said? We just couldn't hear you so clearly. And if I can just ask you to project a bit louder. Thank you. You were saying you are from Tanzania.
Okay. Okay. Am I audible, Prof?
Can you hear him? Okay, they can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, I was saying the old school in terms of the primary schooling up to high school, and then I would have gone to Rhodes from 2011 up until 2016. I studied politics, just two majors, politics and international studies, and also industrial and economic sociology. Up to my postgrad, I continued with politics up until master's. But currently, I'm based in Johannesburg, and I'm working for the National Union of Metalworkers of South Africa as its head of education department nationally.
Wonderful. We heard that very clearly. Thank you so much, Vuyo. Patron, I'll come to you for the introduction.
Thanks, Prof. Lovely to see you. Hi, everybody. So my name is Patronella Nqaba. I'm also from East London, like Vuyo is. I am a GO9. Sounds like such a long time ago. Yes, so I started at Rhodes in 2009 up until 2014. I did my undergrad as economics, majoring in ecos and politics and international studies. And then I went on to do my honors in politics as well as a master's in politics and international studies. I currently work as an impact, a program and impact lead for the Atlantic Institute. Yeah, and I can say a little bit more about what that looks like and what it is in the next round.
Thank you so much, Patronella. We've now heard about the combination between politics and sociology and politics and economics. Wonderful. Nkanyiso, you are next. We are fixing a technical issue we are having in the lecture, but we can hear you all well. Go ahead.
Okay, just to check if I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, wonderful. Greetings to you, Prof, and to all the students and other educators in the building. My name is Nkanyiso Simelane. I am from Pietermaritzburg, the capital of KZN. People get confused and think it's Durban, but it's not. It's Pietermaritzburg, just to put it out there, make that clear. Yes, and I was born and raised there. And then I was at Rhodes University from 2017 to 2020. So I did my undergrad and my majors were legal theory and political and international studies. Of course, I chose those two because I thought they would be good matches in terms of the content and what they are about. And yeah, and then I went on to pursue my honors at Rhodes in political and international studies. So yeah, I had to drop law. It was quite difficult. Not that politics is not, but I guess my journey was to go politics and international relations route, and it's worked out. Yeah, I'm currently a research. Well, I pursued my master's at another university, and I'm currently a researcher at the African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Dispute, which is here in Durban, which is where I am based. And yeah, that's it for now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nkanyiso. So a combination of politics and legal theory, and you are working at home in Durban. Thank you so much. And you are telling us, and we know this with many complaints we get about how our students are doing in law, that is certainly not an easy combination, but your case shows us that it's certainly doable, even though it is challenging. Siviwe, I will come to you now. Siviwe, can you hear me?
I can. Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. Good evening to my fellow panelists and to everybody. And I am also from the
We can't hear you now, Siviwe.
Eastern Cape, but I am from a village. Can you not hear me?
We are struggling to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Can I just ask you to pause there? The computer seems to be frozen, so the issue is on our side. We are getting some assistance. If I can just ask you to just stop for a few seconds.
Oh, no problem.
The projector for now. Are you fixing it? Just close the chat.
They won't mind. Okay, here it is. Maybe
Maybe just do gallery. That I They're all frozen.
I'm trying to find the here.
Okay, something is happening.
Okay, they're
So much, Prof. I think for a start, well, I'm not in London. I'm currently in Limpopo right now. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Tali Mundzhezi. I am from Venda in Matangari, so that's where I was born and raised. One very famous number for me, G02M3453. I remember, I was like, there's no way I'm going to forget this number because it seems like this is like the number that will, you know, make history. So here we are, being invited back to Rhodes. So that's my student number. From 2000 to 2006, I was at Rhodes, and journalism as well. Then my fourth year was specializing in radio broadcasting. No surprise that currently I'm actually at Ubuntu Radio. So politics and media, really, I'm still right in the middle of it. So I'm actually within the Department of International Relations and Cooperation and responsible for talking about South Africa's foreign policy, issues that concern to South Africa's relations with the rest of the world. So issues on South Africa, in Africa, Middle East, all these things that we deal every day. So currently a deputy director there in the branch public diplomacy, which mandate is basically to communicate South Africa's positions, various position, be it on where we stand on human rights issues, all that. Yeah, I think in terms of what I've did also at Rhodes, I was at the SRC, the final year of my my study to 2006, not 2016. Yeah, and any other things that I might just pick up later on during our discussion so that we can save time with the intros. Thank you so much, Prof, and congratulations to you. Well, the journey that we have traveled, I'm really proud of the work that you are doing and the publications that you have released. Really an inspiration for some of us who wants to pursue further studies on PhD as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tali. You will certainly be invited back with all that flattery. In fact, Tali, I want to go in the reverse order for this round of questions and to just ask you, in what ways does your politics degree help you in your everyday life? So you can, you know, speak about a previous post or the current one. In what ways do you use your politics degree in your job currently? You've alluded to this. Can you please expand for us?
Yeah, if you can just briefly, just I was getting in, I think it's maybe the network. Just quickly, in a few seconds, what do you want me to reiterate in terms of my current responsibilities and some of the positions that I've...
Yes, so mainly how your politics degree helps you in your job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think from the word go, I didn't really know what I'm going to focus on, but I just know that I was going to be a media practitioner. So I didn't know in terms of would I go the legal route in terms of reporting on legal matters or reporting on court issues, but I think more of international relations as well. That's why I went on to further pursue my honors in international politics and international relations at the University of Johannesburg, and then subsequently do my master's at University of Pretoria on diplomatic studies. And I think because of my irritation, I used to irritate the ambassador, previous ambassadors of United States of US to South Africa, and subsequently says, no, I need to send you to America for a month so that you know how the media works. So sometimes that's really because of my work, and I'm known for this irritation in terms of wanting to actually just talk to Eva in pursuant of what I want to do as well. But in actual fact, in terms of what I do on a daily basis, is that because in the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, we got various desks that is responsible for various regions in terms of how South Africa's relation with the SADC countries, South Africa's relation with the continent, South Africa's relation with the countries in the Middle East, and what we're doing at the work at the United Nations and the AU as well. So we collate that work and try to further expand or put in a simple term, because some of the work that is done by diplomats, it's not always in the open in terms of this is what they're doing on a daily basis, but we're able to extrapolate something that's on the public interest to say, this you should know, these are some of the deals that are being signed as well. So we try that in a form of radio discussions, in a form of interviews as well. So we take that out as well. So, but previously to what I'm doing now, I used to be the Deputy Programs Manager at the University of South Africa, where I was involved in training as well. One of my passions really is on training young people in terms of media skills as well. So we're training them on how to report on issues in the continent as well. So issues of the continent are quite important. So how I used my politics qualifications really on that to say I didn't limit myself. I just really wanted to get to know everything from the theories to all the practical stuff. And some of this stuff I didn't really understand what it meant. But later on, then I understood, if we were talking about all these chaos theories, all these issues of power as well. What is it when you're talking about international? What do we see? Some countries are more powerful than the other. Simple things like that. So that actually helps me frame in terms of also the topics that we do every day. So really, I just really expose myself in everything. So really doing political studies, particularly also on the international relations side, really just opened the door for me to be able to be a practitioner on international relations.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tali. I'm sure that the students are wondering about the various ways in which they can irritate some ambassadors and land up in some glamorous countries. Thank you for that. And Naledi, you are next. How does your politics degree inform your daily practice?
So it actually informs it in a lot of ways. Like the main one being that a lot of the misinformation that I see online that I have to then debunk concerns politics. So like now, for example, it's a really big elections year. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that I'll see online. And also just because I'm researching and dealing with a huge volume of information at any one time, I think that a lot of like the fundamental understanding of like how political processes work that I learned in my politics degree has really helped me. Like whenever I go online and I see, I don't know, someone claiming that, WHO is going to take away our ability to make decisions of our like food and water, just a basic understanding of how the WHO works allows me to know straight off the bat, okay, this is wrong. And also like I have an idea of where to go exactly for the correct information. Same as like when, I don't know, I'll see someone going online saying that there's some being hysterical online, claiming, oh, the US is gonna sanction us and then we're gonna be just like Zimbabwe. No offense to Zimbabweans, but South African misinformation merchants. Lower UA proposed that we get removed from AGOA. And, just like, like the amount of research that I would, the powers of Congress, like so much time that I've saved by virtue of already knowing those things because of my politics degree. And also I think that one thing that can't be like understated is how much politics at Rhodes teaches you how to not just like understand theory, but like understand what people are saying and like formulate an argument, and like use applied research to formulate an argument. So like that's the skills that I use in my work literally every day. So yeah, just.
Excellent. Those are really important points because sometimes when we say to the students, you must read now, I think some of them assume that they'll read later once they get the job. Am I wrong? And in fact, what she's saying is that you can't now in this year where is it 64 or 65 countries that are going through elections in 2024. You can't now start learning about electoral processes in 2024 as you are doing your job. You have to start now. Are we frozen?
And that was useful because it was my foot in the door. And of course, I've gone on to obviously further my studies, doing my honors, looking at specifically political communication and how that shapes voter behavior. And I'm currently doing my master's now on strategic policy making and development studies. And I think that it's really important that as we look forward to what the next 30 years, at least, of South Africa's democracy looks like, that we start putting a lot more emphasis on people who have their roots firmly, set in having had some qualification of some kind, but particularly in a humanities level. And that's really, really assisted me because, as I said, I started off as a professional staffer and worked there and worked in political communications for 7-8 years, headed up in having been the head of ministry for the Department of Health in the Western Cape. And all of that was really informed by the skills that I was able to obtain, not only at Rhodes, but at UWC and now at UCT. But all of those were informed by those decisions to be firmly rooted in some kind of academic foundation. And so I know that often it does not seem as though our political culture is changing enough for people to say, look, I don't necessarily want to start off in this one track. I want to be able to be an advisor at Parliament. I want to be able to be a chief of staff to a minister. I want to be able to be, you know, a procedural advisor to the table in the National Assembly. And all of those things can be traced firmly back to how you equip yourself academically beforehand, because what that then does is that it allows you options and it opens doors for you in a way that you can't imagine, because all of a sudden you've got a political leader who's not saying, I need to hang on to this position because there's nothing else I can do. You've got a political leader that says, look, I'm well educated. I've headed up teams. I have worked in government. I've worked in political party settings, but also now I'm a political leader. And so my degree at Rhodes has been integral to my career growth and has also been integral in saying, well, how do I further that? How do I hone my skills? I'm only 35 years old this year. And I have another career in me. And that's the beauty for me of a humanities degree, because I can go on to do so many other things. And that I'm not boxed in saying, well, this is where I am now. And I don't see myself, aging at the age of 60 and falling asleep in the benches of Parliament. Not at all. I mean, I am energetic, and I will do this work as long as it remains meaningful to me and meaningful to the people of South Africa. But I also have options to do other things. And so I thought maybe instead of asking how it's helped me, is to just say that there are different ways to find yourself in a political environment. And it's not always just, a system of having to know someone who knows someone who knows someone. Sometimes arriving in a political setting, whether it is in a government department, whether it's what Tali does, sometimes it's about saying, hi, I have got a certain kind of skill that you will need, and this is what I will offer. And of course, my then direction took me to elected office, but it was so important that I had that foundation. And I continue to have it, and I continue to have the desire to learn more because I want to do more. And there are many ways to serve in South Africa. It's not only in political office, but there's public service. Yeah, there's many people who are doing incredible things. And so I think the degree is important as a foundation in many, many ways. Thanks.
Ah, fabulous. Thank you for that. Just unpacking the various parts to political leadership and how a degree also protects you in a very precarious life. Told me this, you have a skill, political seasons change. And Nkanyiso, you are next. Nkanyiso, then Helina.
Okay, thank you. So yes, in terms of my side, I think there's this misconception even with people, and even when I was telling my parents that I'm going to pursue an honors degree or an postgraduate degree in politics, the first thing they said was, oh, you want to be a Malema, you want to join the ANC or something like that, so there's that misconception that when you're doing politics or IR, you immediately are going to go sort of like the formal political route and become a member of parliament, but I think there's a lot of educating that needs to be done in terms of the politics degree and the amount of opportunities and areas you can embark on. So my journey, I think I'm just going to map out my journey from the time I got my degree at Rhodes, because I think that will give quite a clear understanding of how one could use a politics degree, and particularly the research side, academia side of things. So yeah, I left Rhodes in 2020. That's when I received my honors. And then, of course, I was in a situation where I need to I wanted to pursue a master's degree, because generally speaking, if you want to be in academia and start writing or publishing and being, in that kind of route, you generally need at least a master's degree as a bare minimum. And so I'd applied for a scholarship. Of course, that scholarship required a certain sort of like a criteria in terms of your marks. So first, it helps to do as well as you can in your undergrad and your honors degree, because it opens doors for certain scholarships. That's number one. And so, I mean, I wasn't an A student, but I managed to get in, luckily. And I got the scholarship from the CAS SIRE, Konrad Adenauer Foundation, and South African Institute of International Affairs in Johannesburg. And the good thing about that opportunity, they had both a scholarship component, which means they were paying for your master's degree, plus they were also giving you a 1 year's internship. So I worked as a research intern while completing my master's full time. And then from there on, after finishing my master's and finishing that 1 year internship, I managed to get another internship at Accord, where I am now. So I was an intern for about a year on the programs as programs intern, and then also as a research intern, which gave me a good feel of the organization as well. And of course, my strengths are more in the research and writing and publication side. And then I was luckily promoted last year to be a researcher. And then this year also taking up a role as an assistant editor for a publication that Accord produces. And so throughout that process, firstly, obviously the degree was very crucial in me obtaining the scholarship and the internship opportunity, because it was one of the requirements. And secondly, it assisted me a lot in terms of learning how to read and developing a capacity to read. Because I think when I started out in varsity, I wasn't really much of a reader. I wasn't a fan of it, which is kind of ironic if you're doing a humanities degree. But anyway, I don't think I'm still too much of a fan of reading, but I've seen the benefits of it, so I do more of it now. And so that's the first part of it, reading for meaning, and understanding different worldviews. That was number one. And of course, that created an interest in like democracy and how it works and how it can work for South Africa, how it can be made better. And, and obviously part of the degree as well is not just politics, the political sciences of it, there's also the international relations side of it. And so obviously there I learned a lot about in terms of international organizations like the African Union, the SADC, and so on, United Nations. And of course, Accord, where I'm working now, they deal a lot with those organizations, and we engage with a lot with those organizations. And so having that theoretical background of what these organizations are about and how they work really has assisted me in terms of my current job. The second part is writing. Of course, I know sometimes they can get tedious. There's a lot of essays that you write in your politics degree, essays upon essays. Some of them, unfortunately, I must say, were written, 24 hours or 48 hours before, but we made it through. I wouldn't recommend that at all. Don't do that. It's not beneficial. But yes, it obviously the feedback from writing essays and has developed my writing. So now I'm writing for my as part of my job. I do publications quite often because of how the politics degree has assisted me in terms of my writing. And obviously, the last point is assisted me in terms of public speaking. Of course, part of the politics degree is a lot of presentations and engaging openly about your views. And obviously, and that has also assisted me in my work, because some of my publications or part of the job is to not only research and write, but also do presentations about what you're writing and argue in terms of what you're writing. And so that part of the degree that assisted me as well to be able to sort of like develop my craft in terms of public speaking as well. So yeah, that's it for now.
Sure, very nice. Very nice, Nkanyiso. So you're talking about the importance of reading. Good readers become good writers, and good writers are able to speak to their ideas confidently on paper and in public spaces. And I can tell you that unfortunately it still happens that 2 minutes after midnight, one gets an email that all of a sudden, "Are you connected?" is not working. Essay, it's not working. So I agree with you, it's not advisable. Thank you so much, Nqaba. So Helina, I hope you, Helina, can you hear us?
Yes,
Oh,
I
we are
can.
back. Go
Can you
ahead,
hear me?
Helina. Yes, now we can.
Okay, good. So maybe just quickly in terms of what I do in Switzerland at Africa Unlimited. I mean, Africa Unlimited is a company that convenes networks that focus on the African continent. We also work on facilitating networks or facilitating investments towards the African continent. And we also have project mandates, on the African continent, mainly in the education space. So just in a nutshell, what my role entails on a day-to-day basis, it entails a lot of business development. It involves a lot of strategic and management functions, managing a team. It involves communications, public relations work. It involves writing and also, stakeholder management. So it was a very nice exercise to kind of reflect on, how my politics degree has fed into this and has fed into my previous career steps. And on reflection, I identified, 3 main ways in which, what I've learned in politics actually influenced, my day-to-day. And I mean, the first one is really, and it's been spoken about, is this analytical aspect. And, I think you can't underestimate, sometimes when you're reading up on theories, you can't really see as a student how it can help you in a practical situation, because you just haven't had, a practical situation. But really just the mental training that you do when you're looking at these theories, taking them apart, trying to apply them, to the real world, it really gives you a good basis to then do things like, I'm doing a lot of concepts, either for projects or for events, and this basis really helps you very quickly think through topics. Same thing with business development, thinking through how to best put together a business plan. You still need that analytical thinking. Another aspect that I thought about was also just the readings that we did, that kind of really also talked about practical situations. It really helped me understand, the context. Sometimes it's also been mentioned, like, especially in IR, understanding different international organizations. And that also helped me contextualize a lot of the stakeholders' relationships, with government or with the private sector with whom we work a lot. So just this, contextualization from, understanding the world through the readings as well. And the last thing, and it, at the time that I was studying, I think it was not very clear to me, but I think like a lot of the principles and theories that you go through.
I'm struggling to hear you a bit.
Is it better now?
Much better.
So I just the final point is just this you know, I think a lot of the principles and theories that, you know, I read about certainly have helped shape like my thinking on professional ethics as well, because I think a lot of the, you know, the theories and readings that you do really make you think through what is right and what is wrong. And this also feeds into your professional life. So those are the reflections that I had after, you know, receiving your questions, Prof.
Fantastic, the importance of theory, but also the importance of knowing the practical work, like designing a business plan. All of these are skills that one needs, you know, to think conceptually, but also to act practically and strategically. Thank you so much. Vuyo, you are working for a trade union. How does a politics degree prepare you to work for a trade union?
Thanks, Prof. And am I audible first properly, just to make sure? Can you hear me properly? Okay. Okay, thanks, Prof. Yes, I can hear your side.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Well, as you indicate, I'm currently now working in the trade union, the Metalworkers of South Africa. But if I can just briefly go back in terms of the time when I was a student at the university, but also perhaps the thinking prior to coming to the institution as to what could have shaped the choice of the study, the course itself, largely shaped by sometimes the conditions that you grow up and you live under. They can shape your thinking going forward. The conditions in the township and in the village in the King Williamstown, where of course partly I was in King Williamstown and also in Tanzania growing up. But making the choice in studying the Bachelor of Social Science, Politics and Industrial Sociology, the combination of those two, as most of the fellow alumni have indicated here, the combination, of course, I won't talk much of industrial and economic sociology, but there were topics that kind of were related, interrelated. But on the side of politics, mostly, you know, learning about political theory, grounding yourself in terms of political philosophy, and slowly also, I mean, at some point up to the third year level, you begin to learn also in terms of the security studies, international relations, corporate power, how a number of things work, all the way up to in my postgrad, I did honors Bachelor of Social Science, still politics, and then ultimately, where I will perhaps combine it with my current work, was my master's. A master in social science, did in political and international studies, but the research focus, it was a qualitative research methodology, largely focusing on the lived experience of, the title was that lived experience of positional suffering of room attendants at Rhodes University. But the issue was to look at the context in which the workers that are working in those university spaces, be it the residencies, they are cleaning or they're serving food, to ask a student what conditions that they're working on. And I think the title does, without me going deeper into it, positional suffering does give a hint to that. But because of you have to research when you are doing when you're doing masters and also honors, also a little bit of undergrad, you have to do quite a lot of research, preparing yourself. In my current work currently as a head of education, because recently I was appointed as the head of education in the union from 1st February. Before that, I was a regional education officer. And also before working for the union from 2018, I did a lot of recruiting for it in the aviation industry, particularly here in Johannesburg or Tambo International. But the work of being an educator in the organization, it means that you are actually responsible for assisting in developing content for shop stewards and members of the union, for them to understand their positionality in the workplaces and also how to upskill themselves. So it helped me a lot, these qualitative research methodologies, and also just soaking oneself in deeper theory, researching, first of all, because for anything, I think the research aspect is something that I really want to hammer on, being able to conduct research fully. And then from there, you are able to form content. But it is also from the institution that you came across, particularly individuals like Paulo Freire, in terms of their methodology of going about, because that later also assisted me to say, if you're going to be responsible for shaping education, because I don't believe that we are teaching or depositing, but it's the process of sharing experiences with the workers. And from what I can collect research prior, then I'm able to equip them in terms of what they need at the workplaces. But also for the leadership of the organization, there's a lot of things that we have to develop as an education department. So without being long, Prof, really the politics I would definitely recommend. And I think it was Nkanyiso who mentioned that actually as a bare minimum, it helps a lot to even go beyond the undergraduate. Because yes, the undergraduate in terms of just getting the basic understanding, but to go in depth in various subjects and also to focus on a particular field where you have an authority as well, either as a scholar or someone respected in the academy, you have to go at least in the masters. Of course, if it's possible, which I'm also having that aspiration, have a doctorate, have a PhD as well, because you immerse yourself further. So in terms of my work, I think it has helped me a lot, but also during the time at the institution, because of politics gives you something like critical consciousness or critical thinking. So it was not just enough to be sitting in the lecture room, being in the TAT, or preparing for tutorials as a tutor and so forth, but also began to question some of the arrangements historically that are present at the time, and which probably could still be present at various institutions of higher learning in our country. So as a result of those, you also began to think practically of how to engage things at that level as a student, either through participating in student politics and so on and so forth. But I know that perhaps later we'll arrive to that. But with the current work that I'm doing, it has helped me immensely, because all the time you have to learn constantly. You have to research. There's new developments taking up. There's nothing that is static. The world is changing constantly, and politics puts you in a position without being rigid and narrow and saying this is the only line that I'm thinking of. It gives you that critical thinking and wideness to be able to look at various topics, issues, and be able to immediately be able to analyze, connect what could be the source of problems. But of course, mine is mostly focusing on workers.
Fantastic, Vuyo. You say you have to be able to research, and I like that you studied the workers at this very institution, and your own research prepared you to work with workers at a national level. Some time ago, I sent an angry email to the postgrads in the department who were leaving our kitchen dead, expecting that someone must clean after them, and inviting them to think about that, right? And so those are some of what, your work, it sounds to here in our own institution, so that then you can think about these questions at a much higher level. I'll come to you, Patronella, and just two questions. I'm aware that Patronella, over to you.
Thanks, Prof. I'll try and be short and not belabor a lot of the points that
Patronella, are you able to hear?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I was saying I'm going to be a little bit short, not to belabor a lot of the points that have already been made. But I think I walked into the politics class trying to understand and explain my own world, explain my own realities, but also explain what I was seeing out in the world. Sometimes you're watching the news, you're seeing people make particular decisions, and for you, they don't make sense, right? Until you understand the levers of power and the players that are involved. And I think that has equipped me a lot even in my job right now, because of the program and impact lead for the Atlantic Institute. I work with 7 different fellowships across the world. Our organization is based at the University of Oxford at Rhodes House, and it is about supporting change makers. So from grassroots organizers all the way to like CEOs and EDs of organizations who are all invested in working towards a more inclusive and equal world. And so how I've come to use this degree that I got from Rhodes, similarly to Helina, is that I write a lot of concept notes all the time around what would assist or sort of capacitate both organizations and sometimes leaders of organizations in order to do the work effectively by understanding the moment that we're in right now and what it means to move forward, what kind of developments we're seeing that are taking place, what change would look like. I think a lot of people underestimate, the kind of analytical skill that one gets in the politics class, in terms of understanding how change and how change happens, just based on the historicization of the work that you do when you are still engaged in your degree. So I do a lot of that work. I create a lot of programming, a lot of experiential learning for adult learning. And I think that's something that you learn when you do your postgrad, when you think about how to put together arguments, how you go through your own research, how people learn as well. So I use that a lot in my work today. And I think also the ability to be in a politics class and be confronted with different positions and opinions is invaluable, because I think when you leave that place, those stop just being about an essay and starts being about fighting for the direction you think an organization should go. And your ability to write and communicate and articulate that becomes very important. And that's something that I definitely got from very opinionated class of politics students, and that I still use till today. And obviously, as the rest of the colleagues have said, in terms of your writing, your putting together an argument, your analysis, and I think not underestimating the power of being able to digest large volumes of information and use that is something I couldn't have learned anywhere else besides the politics class.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Patronella. And you've touched on a point I had hoped that we're going to address around dealing with difference, how to deal with peer pressure, with disappointment, but also how to deal with serious ideological differences where, your view and that of the other person will likely never meet. But in a way, you have to maybe work in the same organization. How do you do that, So you've touched on that point. And how do you build an argument where you are able to defend your own view against the other? So I really appreciate that. Because of time, I'm going to open up we can take maybe 3 questions for our speakers, and we will close the conversation. Any questions? So?
Good morning to the Good evening. My question was just, I was going to ask for the scholarship that was mentioned by Mr. Njabulo to please be repeated. I didn't quite get the name.
Njabulo, who has to leave this meeting by 7:30. The question is for you to mention the scholarship that you did get. What is the name of the scholarship?
I think Nkanyiso mentioned the scholarship.
Okay, Nkanyiso, can you mention the scholarship?
I think that was Nkanyiso.
Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for that correction, Nkanyiso?
Okay, if I just understand the question is the person asking about the scholarship. What's the name of the scholarship?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it's the Cass Scholarship. It's based in Johannesburg. So it's basically it's 2 organizations. One, it's the Cass, meaning the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, It's a German political organization that has branches across the world. One of them is in South Africa, based in Johannesburg and in Cape Town. And then it's also the SIA, which is the South African Institute of International Affairs. So SIA is the one is where you actually do your internship for a year, while at the same time the other organization, which is CAS, pays for your studies and your tuition and your accommodation where you'll be placed. But it's open to universities that are unfortunately in Gauteng and Western Cape, Cape Town, UCT Stellenbosch. So it's usually open around middle of the year. And so generally they would the requirements is for one to have an average of 70%. It's for a master's degree. Yeah. And I think the key there is, of course, to try and do your best in terms of your academics, but also try to develop a relationship with your lecturers who can possibly write you some recommendation letters. So those are the two key things that I've found very helpful.
Fantastic. Yes, and so if you don't come to class, if you don't come to seminars, you're not going to get a reference letter, okay? Thank you for that, Nkanyiso. I wonder if it's the same scholarship that Tulani Makasa also got. Okay, Professor Matthews wants to say something.
I know I'm not really supposed to answer the questions, but it's so nice to see so many people that I taught and that I remember as being wonderful students. But what I wanted to ask you is about the transition from studies into the workplace. I know you all are doing marvelous things now, but I know that that wasn't always an easy transition, and I think it helps for students to know how you manage to transition out of studies into work and what they might anticipate, because I know it takes often a year or two to really make that transition. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask if maybe three of the speakers, maybe Naledi actually, two other people, and I know she published a book also apart from working in London. So even that, and that also being another trajectory and route and possibility that she took. But also I want to ask the speakers how, even in the transition and also within university, how communities and networks, the people you were friends with, almost shaped and helped you towards your dreams.
Fantastic, fantastic. In fact, Pumi has covered one of the questions I wanted to ask about community. So Naledi, do you want to start us off? So there's a question for everyone about transitioning to work, from being a student to being a professional. How do you do that? And then there's a direct question for Naledi. So you can start with Professor Matthews' question and then to Pumi's one.
Okay, so with the transition, that's an interesting question because I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. So you just kind of have to. I mean, I remember for me, like the biggest shock of working was having to be in an office every day from like 9 until 5. When I was a student, like I would take naps during the day, and you can't do that when you work, which was very distressing at first. But yeah, I mean, I think that maybe because when I was a student, I was like very sort of being a student can be quite isolating because you're doing a lot of studying sort of by yourself and doing a lot of essay writing by yourself. But when you move into the workplace, you kind of just have to be a lot more comfortable with asking questions and asking for help, especially when you're coming in as a junior. And also just like getting more used to doing practical things. Because you're moving from a less theory heavy background to one where you're actually expected to produce results. So I think that for me, the biggest one was having to implement a regular sleeping schedule was one, and also just like having to be very comfortable with approaching my colleagues and asking for help. Like I'm not very good at asking people for help. So that's one thing that I had to learn. And then with the direct question, sorry, can I just thanks for like shouting out my book, by the way. I didn't even mention that, but I wrote a book if anyone was not aware of this. But yeah, thanks for mentioning it. What was the question again?
How do your peers hold you accountable to yourself, to your dreams? How does the community that you formed at university hold you accountable to your dreams? And this is where, you know, people say sometimes we betray ourselves. So how do you build a community around yourself that reminds you who you are, even when things get a bit fuzzy? Thanks.
So this has been, I've had a very interesting history relationship with my peers because I was in a deeply unpopular SRC. So that year was that year involved a lot of people holding me to account in ways that were very uncomfortable for me to deal with. But I just kind of found that actually since I left that deeply unpopular SRC, I mean, Rhodes people have been some of my biggest supporters. I think, like, especially with regards to the book, a lot of the first, I mean, even this book launch in London, some of the people who showed up to that book launch were people I met at Rhodes who now live in London. So yeah, I mean, I'd say that it's really important to like build up your community at Rhodes because I think it's because we're such a small university and like everyone kind of knows each other. We're like each other's biggest supporters. We have all these inside jokes once we leave. And so yeah, I mean, your Rhodes friends do end up, I think that I've had a number of like tough times where my Rhodes friends kind of DM'd me to be like, are you okay? And I've done the same for them. So just, you know, keeping in mind that because there are like so few of us, we really do become like not just a community, but like a family of sorts. So it's just keeping in touch with Rhodes people and supporting each other. And that support comes back to you like tenfold. Like, yeah, I'd say that I think that out of the universities I've gone to, the ones where like I've consistently kept, Rhodes has been the one where I've like most consistently kept in touch with people that I studied with, and I've gotten like the most consistent support from the people that I studied with. So yeah, it's just about checking in on each other when you see someone is going through a hard time and continuing that support after university.
Thank you, Naledi. Patronella, then Siviwe. How do you make this transition? You are working across multiple time zones, right? You're working with people in various countries. When do you sleep? How does the routine look like? You know, Professor Matthews and I are always asking students, what does your day look like? What do you wake up and do? When do you go to sleep? You know, these are all very important things in having a system. Please go ahead, Patronella.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be very honest, it was really difficult. You come from a space where I think the university space can be quite sheltered. You have like, you get results, marks, and feedback all the time, and you get into the working world where that's not the case. That's not the case, and you need to be okay with, I think, something that Professor Matthews once said to me when I was doing my master's dissertation, be okay with being wrong because it means you're doing something different. And so transitioning and understanding that you're not going to be getting A's, but you need to do the work is perhaps one of the most difficult things as well. Another thing I'll point out as being difficult but also helpful is that people think that all those roles that you're holding in university mean nothing, but actually they train you to do a lot of time management. If you find yourself having to be on housecom, having to work at the department, having to work at the library, you're learning multitasking, you're learning skills, you're learning what it actually looks like to be part of the workforce, be it made in smaller doses. But when you get out into the world and you have multiple demands and you have multiple line managers that need different things from you, you already sit in that I need to do ABC. And so that's helpful. So my advice for the transition is that start now when you're at university, get involved in a number of things. I think some of the kind of structures that are built around you will teach you how to engage with something that will come of use to you later on with different colleagues, how to resolve disputes in the workplace that, you know, you think you leave them at school, they don't really end, they're part of your life forever. They teach you how to organize yourself, how to write, some of those practical things that you start off at, like writing minutes and running meetings, which I think we take for granted, but they're really, really important. I think a lot of working life is about the practical steps. And to your last question, Prof. Magadla, working like at an international kind of organization for me, is being able to hold that difference. I think what I alluded to at the beginning around the politics class of understanding different opinions, different positionalities may come from a theoretical point of view, is something that you're going to have to carry and help you transition to the workplace, because we come from different backgrounds, we come from different journeys, and so our understanding of things is completely different. And I think what that class does for you is to understand the various competing perspectives that you then get met with, which I think also help you build relationship in the workplace. And so it's very difficult, but you need to be willing to do the work. And I think when we come out, we have all these great ideas that, oh my God, I've got a master's degree, I'm going to start and be a manager. No, no. You're going to start at the bottom, but I assure you, that is worth it. That is worth it. It will always enable you to be a better leader or a better manager when the day comes, because you will know exactly what it entails, how to hold people, how to manage people, but also how to support your team. And so that's another thing for me. Just be very realistic about what it looks like to transition from university into the workspace.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you for that, Patronella. Siviwe, you were nodding a lot as Patronella was speaking. And of course, students think their schedule will get lighter after they graduate, and I just laugh at them. It just gets, I mean, I can't even imagine what your calendar looks like. Go ahead.
Well, it's a kaleidoscope of colors at the moment for the next 3 weeks, but I really wanted to I'll answer your question just now, but I wanted to just tap onto what Patronella said about the expectation management of leaving university and going to a workplace. And I have 3 pieces of advice. Number 1, you will be broke. Trust me. Unless you're a trust fund baby, you will be broke. Your first job will not pay you as much as you think it does, or it will pay you what you think you want as a student, but it will certainly not be enough to live the life of luxury you think that working will provide you. When I first moved to Cape Town in 2012, I had a little studio apartment and in the city center, and I always used to joke with my friends that if I stretched my arm long enough, I probably could stir the pot from my bed in the kitchen. So you will be broke, and that's fine, because guys, that's part of that's part of the transition. But I want to talk about what Professor Matthews asked about the transition into the workplace. Number 1, I think it's important that don't be too anxious and put too much pressure on yourself. I know Naledi spoke about the naps. It is a real thing. That midday nap between lunchtime and that afternoon lecture, it disappears. But don't be too anxious and don't be too hard on yourself about the transition. Trust me, you will adapt. You will walk into a workplace, and it might not be. And remember, work is not a marriage. You're not married to it. So it's not like the first job you walk into is going to be the thing that you do for the rest of your life. And so sometimes there will be transitionary positions that you will walk into, things that you didn't necessarily think this is where I should be. But you will walk into a position that may be a stepping stone to something else. And that's perfectly fine. But what I do want to say is don't be too hard on yourself when you start working. I remember walking into the halls of Parliament and thinking to myself, I may have scammed these people into giving me this job. I have no idea what I'm doing. And now I actually have to deliver. And it's okay. Imposter syndrome, I was a 22-year-old. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. So it's also okay to not know what it is that you're doing. It's perfectly fine. Believe you me, you will learn. But added to that, offer to do more. I always say, and one of the things that I will say to my team always is that to grow in any organization and to in any position and in any profession, be prepared. Patronella said this a little bit earlier about do more in university. I also want to say, challenge you and say, do more at work. Put your hand up and say, can I take a stab at that? Can I write that proposal? And then you can give me feedback. Can I take a stab at sitting in on that meeting? Do more. It will be more stressful, it will be more work, but believe you me, it will sharpen your mind and it will build your skill set. In university, you are coddled in a way that your lecturers are the ones who are telling you, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. In the workplace, you could coast as a professional and people may not even bat an eyelid. So your professional growth is entirely up to you. So you have to be the one that says, can I do that? Can I take a stab at it? And if it's bad, I mean, give me the feedback. But consistently, I appreciate people who say to me, may I please take a stab at writing that? And can you give me feedback? As busy as I am, I will always have time for people who want to learn, because people did that for me at the beginning of my career, where I didn't know how to write a press statement, where I didn't know how to write an op-ed, where I didn't know how to organize a media event. And they were prepared to say, okay, do it, learn, suck at it, be happy to suck at it, and then you will learn. And so now I want to do that for my team always, that guys, take a stab at things that you've never done before. So you will be broke, you will suck at certain things, you will get bad bosses, but it's all part of the growth and it's all part of it's all worth it. Because remember, you are your greatest asset. You are your greatest asset. And so developing that will literally have dividends in the future. And then I just want to also just say, lastly, is enjoy your time in university. I had a ball of a time at Rhodes. It was a lot of fun. I met some of my best friends at university. So nurture those friendships, because believe you me, the adult world and the working world is lonely. It is hard, particularly if you are in public life. You may not always have people who are prepared to be honest with you, who are prepared to say, I remember us sitting at the cafe and you said, this is what you wanted to do with your life. This is not what you're doing now. Why are you not living up to the dream that you said you wanted to do? Those are your day ones. Those are the people who knew you where you could only afford a samosa. So when you later in life, it's important to have those check-ins. Enjoy your time in university, make those friendships, but also keep in touch afterwards. Because even if you weren't friends with someone, I meet people all the time who are like, hey, we went to Rhodes together and I find out that they do this and this. And I say, hey, listen, would you be keen to do research on this? And those things are important. They become your leverage and your organization and whatever you do, but also they enrich you in what you do, because you can tap into a network of people. And lastly, what does my day look like? Well, 3 days of the 5 days a week, I have sittings in Parliament. So on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we have the 2 p.m. sittings in Parliament where we go through legislation, we adopt reports, we debate on issues that are facing the country. And on Mondays and Fridays is our constituency days where you are meant to be in your communities. And so that's generally the kind of framework, but it looks different right now because I am hardly at home. I think my bed may think that I may have died. But it's exciting and I wouldn't have done it any other way. And also one last thing, it's okay to take detours, guys. I was so set on becoming a family lawyer because of a personal dream that I had. And I was devastated when I couldn't continue with my LLB because I ran out of money. But it was the best detour that I could have ever had for my life. I would have never dreamt that my life would have turned out the way that it did and being purposeful the way that it is. So it's okay. Those detours are going to come. Those failures are going to come. Those doors are going to slam in your face. It is okay. It's all part of the bigger plan. Thanks.
Fabulous, fantastic. Yeah, so from what you're saying, it's an entirely people's journey, from you starting up, surrounded by all kinds of elders, of peers, you becoming a boss, showing up for others, but also clinging on to wonder, a sense of surprise, of things changing, you succeeding, you also failing, it's part of the journey. Thank you for that. Vuyo, you were nodding a lot. Please respond to the question, and I invite you to just give your final remarks as well.
Thank you, Prof. And no, I'm nodding because I think it's wise what the various alumni colleagues are sharing. For myself, I'm actually picking up things because we learn every day. But I think in terms of the two questions, Prof, the one on transition, I'll come back to maybe I'll be very brief because I know that you're also pressed for time, but the one on community, I'll touch very brief on it. It's not easy. I think most of the colleagues have mentioned this issue of the transition. I won't dwell much, but I think it's also important to develop a sense. I know it's not easy as a student. It's difficult. Sometimes could miss the lectures and so on and so forth. But it's important to develop a sense of responsibility, even at that level. I'll mention, for instance, there's a couple of things. One of the things that I immediately thought was at least fine from, of course, it was also informed by material conditions. A student at the university, you may be not getting enough pocket money and so forth because of situations. So I also became a tutor during my time there. Various, I think, for at least about 3 years. And that kind of develop some sense of responsibility, focus, and so on and so forth. So then from there, transition to work, of course, I think everyone has said there is no blueprint. I did not leave the institution with a manual that said, now you are leaving the institution. This is how, in fact, from 2016 up until 2018, when I officially start in between, there's a lot of movement. It's not, and I think someone mentioned, I think it was Siviwe and also others mentioned the issue of it's also fine to be broke and struggling at that moment, figuring things out. But because of what you've learned, and the politics degree for me gives a lot of adaptability in different situations. And where I've landed now, there was no blueprint. I did not, for instance, even though I did sociology, industrial sociology undergrad, but most of the things regarding, the situation with workers and everything, I had to actually dig very deep. And it was that background that helped me. And then lastly, on the community, I think it's very good to, that community that was built through being part of student formations, organizations as well, but also just generally lifestyle, not only focusing on politics, I think also having fun at the university, balanced life. At some point, you can even, some people, you leave the institution and at times you can even have a lifetime partner from there. I mean, those are the dynamics that the reality, because you are there for years and you build life with many people, even if you don't constantly see them afterwards. But yeah, they do have loads of fun and enjoy yourself. I think Siviwe is reiterating. And then I think, Prof, my very last word is to say that indeed, politics it's not only, I don't see it only in terms of work that I'm doing, but also so many things around social aspects in the community where I come from that have helped me in terms of thinking through situations. I equate it to, I don't know how, what game or something. Maybe I can equate it to a chess game. It gives you a lot of strategy. You plan, you see yourself out of situations. So I think it's as long as you are prepared to invest a little bit of time and continue, there are a lot of opportunities going forward. Thank you, Prof, and everyone.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you for that, Vuyo. I don't want to be a fun hater, Siviwe, but some of us think some students may be having too much fun. There needs to be a balance, Helina, I want to invite you to speak. Of course, talking about chairing, Patronella mentioned this. No one really teaches you how to chair a meeting, right? How to write a concept note, how to write up those minutes. A lot of it you learn by watching different styles of leadership and choosing the one that fits your personality. Go ahead, Helina. You are muted, yes.
Yes. So, I mean, I think, you know, everybody will have a different path in terms of the transition from, you know, being a student to, you know, being in the workplace, because we're all different. We work differently. Some of us are more structured. Some, you know, some people are morning people, some people. So it's really, I think, the best thing you can do for yourself is really reflect on what your strengths and weaknesses are as an individual, because in that way, you know, you will be able to do things like was mentioned, like ask for help from your colleagues, to really understand where you can also leverage your team if you need help on certain things where you might not be as strong, where you can support team members where you know you are strong. So I think really, if you have a strong sense of who you are, what your strengths and weaknesses are, then you can really also, you know, bring that into the workplace. Another thing is to really stay curious. So you're not going to know how everything works. And it's, you know, by the way, even as a seasoned professional, if you start a new job, you'll need some months to really get into it. Yes, you might get into a new job quicker because you've got previous experience, but you know, any new situation needs curiosity, so you can learn, so you talk to people. And most of all, stay authentic, stay kind. You don't know when you're going to, you know, come across other individuals. And that's where the community comes in. You know, you maintain your relationships, like was mentioned, and don't forget that you're also part of this bigger Rhodes, you know, family network. Just a last anecdote before I finish off. You know, we organized a series of events in Davos with top CEOs, top officials from across the globe, across Africa, and including South Africa. And we organized a luncheon with around 75 people. 5 of them were Rhodes alumni that I knew of. There were other South Africans in the room. I didn't get a chance to ask if they went to Rhodes, but definitely 5 were alumni out of that 70. So don't forget that you are part of this bigger, you know, network and family.
And maybe part of the lesson from that, Helina, is that try not to burn too many bridges. You never know where you meet people. Okay? Do not go around canceling people for no reason. Okay, I said there's a bit more commotion here as we are getting late. Can I ask you, Nkanyiso and Tali, to just make one point and then we will close?
Yes, I think just quickly, you need to back yourself. A part of a transition, you need to back yourself. You need to trust yourself. Of course, it can be daunting getting into a space of like coming to work, but you know, you're chosen amongst many people who took interviews or went through the process and you were selected. So you need to really back yourself. And I think on the aspect of community, it's so important to take care of yourself emotionally, mentally, physically, exercise, spiritually. If you're a Christian like myself, go to church. That also helps you, particularly if in times of distress, like depression can hit, academic depression can hit you, and you need that kind of community to sort of like support you. So those are my parting shots. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yes. You know, the holistic health, you know, knowing what you need spiritually, knowing what you need physically as well. Love that point. Tali, one final point from you. We can't hear you. You are unmuted, but we can't hear you. Oh no, we can't hear you at all. Can you hear him in the room? No, no one can hear you, Tali. Try again. Okay, I'm sorry, Tali, we really can't hear you. Sorry about that. But what I will do is to, there's some students, they will follow you on LinkedIn and other platforms. It is really just to thank you now and thank you for your patience with all these tech challenges that we had today. You know, I truly believe that the best thing that we can offer others is our time. And so we don't take this for granted. Siviwe said you offer to do more, you know, and part of accepting our invitation is to do more. It is to pay it forward. And so we appreciate it. And I love this point around staying curious. You know, Cynthia Enlow says one must never say, we never do this in this department. We always do this, because that blocks your ability to grow. And so we really appreciate the insights. Is there a comment there from Tali, which might be the point that you wanted to say? Okay, just a thank you for the conversation. Thank you to you all. I will hope to have this conversation again, maybe in person. Thank you so much, and have a good evening, have a good morning, wherever you are in the world. Cheers from GMT. Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you to you.